All right, team, I'm going to friggin' blow your mind today. I'm going to give you 3 persuasion tips that will help you. It will transform your business. It will transform your personal life, your connections, the ability to meet people, the relationships you can build, the friendships you can build, and ultimately the deals and contracts that you can close as well. And these 3 persuasion tips, some powerful stuff. I've implemented them in my business. And honestly, like, there's people out there who are successful who don't know them, but they use them anyway, like naturally. That's just how they've grown up and they use them naturally. However, the great thing about this is you don't have to be natural because they are skills that can be learned and they must be learned if you want to level the playing field. So that's ultimately what today is going to be about. You might be wondering right now, Rob, why do you look like an absolute sweaty mess? Well, the truth is I've come into this small room. It's my little office here. It's also the hottest room in the entire apartment. I live in an apartment. And not only is it the hottest room in the entire apartment, I can't have a fan in here because I've got my microphone on. So there's a good chance, I've got a thermometer here. It's a food thermometer, but we keep it with us because regular thermometers aren't needed in England. It's 32 degrees in this room, which is around about 89 Fahrenheit for you Americans out there. So there's a good chance I might boil to death in this actual video. And if I do boil to death, you won't ever see this video. So if this video has been uploaded, then I did survive, or I woke up at some point. So there's that, right? So let's get into it, right? Persuasion tips that you guys need to know. One of the biggest persuasion tips that I truly think has changed my life, and just from being an observant guy who watches people in situations and seeing the people who fail, seeing the people who succeed, seeing the people who aren't well liked versus seeing the people who are accepted by different friend groups, or people who go viral and people just like them. It's really comes down to one thing, and that is the likability bias. So if you are not a likable person, you won't get any advantages out of life. And I say that with like all the love in my heart. Like, if you are coming across as a likable person, unlikable person, you will not get the business, you will not get the friends, you will not get the connections who want to, be around you, right? Even if you are actually a really nice person. So there might be people out there who are actually pretty bad people, but they come across as charismatic and come across as likable. And as a consequence, they end up basically stealing the cake, right? Leaving you at home with absolutely nothing. And luckily, likability is something which can be learned. I'm going to give you a few simple techniques. Now, there's some simple techniques I'm going to give you in this video, and they're powerful. And I don't want you to use them to try and manipulate people. Like, if I find people have been, using some of this stuff to manipulate people, or using it to, I don't know, sell drugs to kids or whatever, I won't ever let you in any of my programs. I'll ban you from watching my stuff. We'll work out how to do that. Whether it's, banning you from commenting or anything like that. So that's how it's going to be. Like, you must use this stuff ethically because it's very, very powerful. If you look at any president, any high political figure, any musician, any person at the top of their game, any business person, they are generally, whether they're a good person or a bad person, generally very, very likable to the masses. And the people who gravitate towards them are generally people who they see have got commonalities with them, right? So one of the best sales principles, and I think it was either Jordan Belfort or somebody else who was talking about how to quickly build rapport with prospects, is to basically find common ground with them as quickly as possible. So we as humans, it's evolutionary. We have a tendency to like people who are like us, right? We have a tendency to sort of stay in the same groups as people who are like us, right? So, you know, the sporty people all hang around with the sporty people. The best look at this is like in high school, because people do it so obviously. It's less obvious later on in life when we're all working, you know, in careers and we're all stuck in the same room together. But if you look at like high school, where there's a little bit of freedom about like pick and choose your friends, the goth kids all hang around with the goth kids. The kids who are lower on the popularity hierarchy all hang around together. The people who are higher on the popularity hierarchy all hang around together. Girls all hang around together. The guys all hang around together. People find people who they think they have things in common with. It's evolutionary. It's well thought through. Done throughout history. If you read any history book, people of similar mindsets, similar personalities, similar traits all stick together. So the great thing about this is you can actually reverse engineer it. And salespeople, if you see any like car salesman or good waiter at a restaurant, they will know this and they will try and quickly build rapport with you. And this is how they'll do it. They will say to you, oh, no way, I like golf as well. Oh, really? You've got 2 kids. I've also got 2 kids. What, have you got, boy and a girl? Boy and a girl as well. Yeah, same. So, oh, you love animals? I've got a dog, you know, I love walking the dog on the weekends. Yeah, I like this type of car as well. You know why? Because it's just got that smooth, elegant feel to it. They copy things that they think you're going to say, so they predict it, or they basically just repeat your words back to you. They quickly find commonalities because they know evolutionary, people who have got commonalities, things in common, they bond quicker together. So if you look at, so a good way actually of finding people who are not good to have in your social circle are maybe people with dark triad traits. So it could be Machiavellianism. So being cunning, being sneaky, narcissism or psychotic. Narcissism, whereas people just love themselves, right? Narcissists, the good thing about this is that narcissists tend to hang around together. Cunning people tend to hang around together, which is why if you look at people in relationships and you'll see, I don't know, like a man or a woman, and they're like, I just seem to keep getting the a-hole, right? The asshole, I just seem to keep getting the asshole, the same sort of partner every single time, right? There's probably something in them, A, which is attracted to that type of person. Maybe it's like an attachment parental issue or something. Or B, maybe it's that the fact they're actually very similar to them, and that likes attract likes, right? So if you're wanting to be more persuasive, and to do that you want to be more well liked, a great place to start is looking at like sort of the common ground that you have with people. And if you can just nail like that down in like a non-sleazy salesman way, like if a person who you're meeting them for the first time, whether it's, starting a sales call or something like that, if you can just start the sales call off by just building that bit of rapport. Oh, no way, I was in Italy last week. Whereabouts are you? Oh, I've never been there, but I've been to here. Have you been here as well? Natural conversation, which builds the common ground for people. And as a result, actually builds rapport as well. Starting to flag a little bit because this room is just getting hotter and hotter. I'm melting. Absolutely melted. All right. So we've talked about common ground. The great thing about this is it's very, very easy to do with people, right? You just pick the common ground up pretty quickly. Have you ever noticed that people who are, bonded with each other in some way, they're friends, they are, go on to become business partners, they go on to have relationships. One of the first things they say is, well, we just had so much in common, right? Mind blown, because actually sometimes you can manufacture having things in common. Now, I think you should, honestly, I think you should actually try and find people who you've got in common, because you can't hold like a fake side of you up forever. But maybe, you know, there's times where you're feeling really lonely and you need other people with you. You need, you know, you want friends or whatever. This is kind of one of those persuasion techniques that you should learn to actually try and implement in. Secondly, to this as well, if you can combine this with actually being a good person. So, for instance, there's a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've got it somewhere. I couldn't find it on my shelf before. But basically, this book, it's a great book. It talks about like how people interact with each other, how they get on with each other as well. And if you can combine being like a person with common ground, similar interests, and also being a nice person as well, checking in on someone when it's their birthday, sending them a text message every month or so, actually calling someone up who you actually want to build a relationship with, build like a friendship with, build a partnership with. You know, at some point they're going to be of some value to you. That is one of the best ways to do it, because everyone walks through the world thinking they are alone at some point, right? They feel like they're alone. They feel like no one cares. They feel they're kind of just on this weird sort of hamster wheel of life where they kind of hit, you know, mid to late 20s, and then suddenly, or they might even be younger than that, suddenly they just think, damn, man, I'm pretty much alone. No one really cares about me. No one really checks up on me. You have to be the person doing the checking up. That's what I've learned. Being a social, extroverted person. I'm going to show you in some of the videos coming up about me, you know, going and speaking to people, doing this little challenge at the moment, these episodes where I'm actually building a business up from scratch and I'm going out there and meeting people. And I don't know the rules around it, but hopefully I can put some stuff in where I actually go and meet people and chat to them. You'll be able to see how I'm quickly building rapport with people. Failing that though, I've got a few good events coming up, and I'm actually, I'll film some of it as well about getting like social circles together and things like this, just so you guys can see a little bit like how it's done. Because I was like really struggling as a kid, like to try and get people to you know, almost like me and things like this. Like they probably did like me, and I was just thinking about it too much. But I really wanted to like investigate and learn like how the world works, because I just was like, the world doesn't seem to work how I think it should work. So I need to really learn how it works. So I spent a few years and I did that. And this is why I've got this channel, is so I can actually show some of these things to you and learn as well. You know, I don't know everything. In fact, like the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. So we got likable, which is building common ground and actually being a good person as well. Being better looking. I've written this down, and this might be controversial. I don't care. You know, I know some people are going to get the knickers in a twist about this, but being a better looking person, actually trying to keep yourself well groomed. I know this is so ironic because I'm literally soaked in sweat at the moment in the sweaty shirt trying to tell you about this, but being a better looking person gets you unfair disadvantages. You've probably, if you're watching this video right now, you've probably seen people who've been hired purely based on looks, right? And it happens with guys and it happens with girls as well. But there's actually good research that the better looking you are, and it isn't actually based on always on like facial looks. It can be based on like going to the gym, you know, getting a, you know, building some muscles, things like this. It can be based on actually making yourself presentable each day. And if you can do some of these things and actually being well groomed, in the book by Neil Strauss called The Game, he basically goes into this community of pickup artists, and he's like a guy who can never get a date, and he ends up following all these dating coaches around and basically learning all of like their strategies and things to help him date. And one of the things that he learned was that it doesn't really matter, if you're a guy, it doesn't really matter so much about like what you look like. It matters more about like Are you, you know, clean? Are you like sort of have high hygiene, smell good, you know? Well groomed is much more important than actually good looking for like guys and things like that. It's a little bit different for women, but still, like always, not just wearing your scruffs out all the time or your jogging pants, right? Actually being presentable to people is a massive thing, and it gets you massive advantages. One of the massive advantages is that it actually helps you get less of a prison sentence. If you were convicted of something, if you're a better looking, more attractive person, you actually get less of a prison sentence. Statistically, in studies they've measured, where they've measured a person's attractiveness for the same crime as they've measured other people's attractiveness for, basically like for the same sort of case, right? The people who were rated as more attractive ended up getting less of a prison sentence, first of all. Secondly, they also ended up having to pay less of a fine as well. So they ended up better off in two ways. They just basically got less punished across the board. And you could do this by actually presenting yourself a little bit better in more of an attractive way. There's a good book called Never Eat Alone. I recommend it to everyone. It's by a guy called Keith Ferrazzi, and he's like a real networking guy. Like, came from nothing, built like a very, very successful business up because he was, you know, trying to just trying to like fulfill his potential, right? And he did it by like basically leapfrogging from position to position, meeting new people in a different group, leapfrogging to that group, meeting different people, like bam, 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 like a spider's web, right? And one of the things he says is that he has a Rolodex. So what could be used as like a Rolodex in this day and age, like a spreadsheet of contacts with friends, right? And he catches up with like his highest priority people. Once a month, he will attempt to contact them. So once a month, he is literally investing the time to go and contact some people who he wants on his radar. Remember what we said about being a nice person and being likable, right? How often have you actually put in your phone or like set a time or whatever on a calendar and says, I'm going to catch up with this person on this date, this person on this date, this person on this date, this person on this date. A lot of people are too in victim mode about, you know what, like they never contacted me first, I'm sick of always contacting them. And whilst that might be true, you have to understand, to go anywhere in life, you have to be the one who exerts more effort. You have to exert more effort building your business than your competitors. You have to exert more effort putting out content. You have to exert more effort being a nice person. You have to exert more effort catching up with friends. If you want to go anywhere, everything is about exerting more effort, more pressure, more force than anybody else. And if you can do that, you're doing pretty well, right? So, likability. There are a few quick tips and techniques to make yourself more likable, right? Let's just recap those. Building a common ground with someone, being better looking, and also, what was the last thing I said? Like keeping yourself attractive, like well groomed and things like this, which is absolutely ironic because I'm sat here looking pretty terrible at the moment. All right. Okay. So next one, let's talk about the next one. Next one is called social proof. Social proof is a powerful, powerful force. And what social proof is that the idea that humans are pretty much all just big, fat herd animals. We just do what everyone else does, which is very true, right? We literally do what everyone else does, right? Social proof, it happens in cults, okay? Everyone just copies everyone else, even though the stuff doesn't make sense. Social proof, it happens in, you know, stores when they release something and you know, you walk past an aisle in, I don't know, like some sort of grocery store, and you can see everyone crowding around one little bit. Instantly, your curiosity is piqued. It happens in relationships as well. It happens with authority figures. You see, you might find a guy attractive, right? And lo and behold, everyone else finds this guy attractive as well. Same with girls, like it's always, the same girl everyone kind of wants, right? This is social proof. We are herd animals. And I'm going to get a little bit controversial there, but I don't care. We've seen a lot of this over the last 2 years of people being herd animals, last 3 years actually, of people just kind of acting without really knowing what they're doing, just kind of following the mentality. If they see like a news article on something, just check like the comments on like any Facebook article or any sort of news article. You could just see that if the headline inspires fear or something like that, everyone is getting super, super, super angry in the comments. And what happens is they all inspire each other to get angry. They're like, well, this person's angry, so now I'm going to be angry. Sheep, honestly. It's frigging crazy, honestly. Some of the things that you see when you get super into marketing and super into sales that you just like, that you wreck, because I'm like highly trained on some of these things now because I've used some of them, some of the persuasion principles. I've also been around other people who've used them as well, but because I have a well-trained eye for it, I can see when this persuasion thing is actually happening, right? So like some of the things over the last 2-3 years as well, I remember like some people in England where we had like different sorts of protests and different sorts of like, all sorts of, I'm not going to get into it, but like different sorts of things like that. And there was this guy that I know, I'm not really friends with him. He's like a friend of a friend of a friend. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to go to blah, blah, blah. And we were just sat around, having like a coffee, a few of us. And this guy was like, I'm going to go and blah, 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 protest tomorrow. And he was like, and we were like, why? And he was like, well, because my friends are going to this place. And we were like, yeah, but why? And I asked him, I was like, but what's your purpose for protesting? Like, why? What are you protesting against? Dude didn't even know, right? Social proof. His friends are doing it, so therefore it's right, so therefore I'm going to do it. So you've got to understand that most people will do things everyone else will do, right? So if you have, I don't know, you're trying to like build a business and you haven't got testimonials of people singing you praises, comments from other people, it gets very, very tricky right there. So you have to take a back step and be like, I know people only act when they can see other people do it. It's evolutionary again as well, because it provides safety that your decision-making process is actually correct if you can see other people doing it. And also it saves energy. So hot in this room. It saves energy because you have to use your brain less. It actually conserves energy, conserves calories and things if other people can make the decision for you and you just go along and copy. So it's evolutionary, right? Safety in numbers as well. So to make your products less risky, you must be essentially making sure they're as social proofed as possible. It also works as well if with friends, family, relationships. Have you noticed that like when you haven't got, you're feeling, I don't know, everyone feels like this at some point. You feel like you haven't really got anyone to talk to. One of the complaints I get from like sort of young men I speak to is that like they don't really have anyone to speak to. Their friends don't really care and things like this. Have you noticed the moments where you feel like your friends care the least, everyone seems to like not care, right? And the reason why is people just have to gravitate towards positive things. So if we put this into a practical application, I'm trying to think how to make this practical for you. If you're trying to get friends out to come out with you, to, to party with you, to come to, I don't know, come for a coffee with you, to go drinking with you, to go on holiday with you, to come to a business thing with you, it's much more persuasive for you to actually say, hey, I'm going to X, Y, and Z this weekend. Blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah are also coming there. Do you want to come? Right? That is 100 times more persuasive than saying, hey, man, I've got to go to blah, blah, blah this weekend. I'd like to. No one's actually interested. Do you want to come? Much more persuasive, right? Because people like other people to make the decisions for them. Social proof, right? So think about that practical. I should charge so much money for this, honestly. Like, if you can just implement some of those actual hacks into your life, like social proof, actually saying to people who else is going to be there, actually saying like, you're going to have so much fun here because these people are interested, right? It's persuading people, high level persuasion principle to get people to come to something that you want. And the reason why I tell this stuff is I know that you guys won't really, manipulate people with stuff like this. But the reason why I'm telling you this stuff is because you could be saying pretty much the same thing, but not having the desired result. But you're not saying it quite in the right way. You could be just saying to people like, I want to go to this event, but nobody wants to come. Do you want to come? Not persuasive. You're going to get turned down. They're going to be like, well, sorry, I've got I don't know. Ooh, I think I've got something this weekend that I need to do. Sorry about that. They won't. They just need it to be a social proof, right? So social proof things. Social proof, absolutely everyone. So I was walking into a restaurant the other day, and I've got like quite a few restaurants interested in doing business with me. If you've been following like the episode 1, episode 2, I'm just going out there. I'm trying to build a business completely from scratch and actually take all the learning lessons I've learned in online sales, online marketing, and seeing if I can apply it to real life. Because I truly believe if you want to be, a black belt in anything, you must be versatile, you must be flexible, and you must be prepared to work through any situation, any challenge, and be able to handle it, right? So that's why I started to do these episodes of can I build a business from scratch? And I've decided to offer social media marketing to restaurants because I know the industry, but also because I know marketing as well. So you're gonna see that like on the first few times I've went to restaurants, I like had nothing to say to them other than, do you want your social media marketing doing? But quickly what I worked out was that, why don't I social proof this? Why don't you, do you guys want your social media marketing doing? I've got this restaurant interested, I've got this restaurant interested, I've got this restaurant interested. These guys are all interested. Suddenly the owner's like with me, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. Now they're more persuaded, right? Another thing as well, this is absolutely hilarious. Social proof is about hanging around with winners and avoiding the losers. And I don't mean that as in like, I don't mean that to be like mean or anything, but we've all at some point in our life been a winner, or we've been a loser, or we've been, quickly switched between both of them in whatever things we do. I know there's a lot of like, some of that's down to perception, Rob, but like, just hear me out here. Let me make the point, right? So if you are like trying to, people just want to be with like the winning group. I see a lot of stuff in the manosphere at the moment, which we'll talk about in a little while. The manosphere is massive at the moment because, they're trying to like move men's, I suppose like rights, health, confidence forward and everything like this. And they get some things right. They don't get everything right, from what I understand. But one of the things is that they say that like women only like winning men, but it actually works every way, right? It's not just in that sort of order. People in general only like winners, right? If you don't believe me, watch next time you go through like a negative patch, a rough patch, right? Watch how long your friends will actually stick around before they start rolling their eyes at you when you start complaining. I'm not going through something very good at the moment. They'll deal with it. They'll tolerate it for a little bit, but then after that, you're slipping from the winner into the loser, and people don't like to associate with losers. In their head, logically, they're thinking to themselves, oh, God, Billy keeps complaining. So it's just his negative vibes, negative attitude. It's actually putting me off from just even speaking to him, because I know that's just exactly what we're going to speak about. So that's what logically they will say, but evolutionary and subconsciously, it's because you're slipping from the winner frame into the loser frame. That's just how it is, right? You've got to, if you need to be, for whatever reason, if you're in the loser frame for a little while, because everyone gets into it, right? Just life, it just happens. You need to make sure you manage it well, right? So just be in the loser frame for a little bit before the next day you're back out there being in the winner frame again, even if you don't feel like it. Because unfortunately, this is kind of like how life is. So I'll leave that at that. Oh no, actually, I've got another example of social proof. So a while ago, I was invited, I was trying to get a bunch of people to help me out. I was trying to launch a brand new product, and like I knew some business owners and I'd helped all of them out in some way or another. And I was like, you know what, maybe I can actually speak to some of these business owners and see if they can actually help me. Because now I'm in need and I need something, right? Now they didn't know me too well. They didn't know like kind of what successes I'd had or anything like that. Every single one of them, actually about 50% of them said that they would help me out, and they later flaked. And the other 50%, they just didn't even reply at all. Just didn't even give me a message back, right? And then what happened was, a few months later, because we're all in kind of small circles, right? We all hear about like the successes of other people or like the failures of other people, because honestly, the world's quite a small place. So a few months later, I had like some really massive successes, and it spread around some of the communities that I was in. Just because I was just having a time where I was just winning, right? And what happened was, these guys, because now I was being social proof by the communities, oh, Rob's doing really well at this. Oh, Rob, I know he's with this person. I know he's, trying to do things here with them. Now, suddenly I'm social proofed in everyone's mind. These guys all started reaching out to me, right? To actually offering their help and things like this. The only reason is that now I was social proofed, and they were like, oh, actually, he's now, popular, so I want to associate myself with him because he's popular as well. If you look deep down, these principles that I'm talking to you about right now are true. If you look deep down, if you look at like the history of your life and things haven't worked out well for you, it's either because you didn't know the right person, because you weren't likable to that right person, because you weren't social proofed enough. Maybe, you were in maybe sort of like the spending a bit of time in the loser frame. Because you're spending a bit of time in the loser frame, people started avoiding you. If you look deep down, these are fundamental principles, and they're actually well documented in books that, you could just pick up and read all about. Okay, so the final principle that I want to talk to you about is called authority. So, let's see if I can recite this story, because it's a while ago. What's it called? Milgram's electric. Let me just Google this, actually. I think it's Milgram's electric experiment. Milgram's experiment. Okay, cool. So I'm actually going to share some of this with you right now. This screen. Milgram's experiment. Screen recording. Oh, hello. All right, so you can see here, years ago, there was an experiment by Stanley Milgram, I think his name was, and basically he tested people's ability to stand up to authority. And he tested whether people in the presence of an authority figure, so authority figures, the teachers, doctors, right? So in this case, it was like a person in a lab coat which signaled authority. And he tested whether having an authority figure in the room would be enough to override a person's moral code, right? So he actually set people out like this. He got an actor in there. So the person in the lab coat is an actor, and he got an actual real participant, And then he also got a participant behind a screen, right, who was also an actor. So the person in the lab coat's an actor. I'm not describing this very well because I'm so hot. So the person behind a screen here is an actor. Let's see if we can click on this. Actor. This is the experimenter here. He's wearing a lab coat. He's also an actor. These two people are in on it. This is an actual real participant, right? And what happened was this person sat in this seat here had to press buttons. And each button they pressed administered a stronger and stronger electric shock to this person behind the screen. This real person here couldn't see the actor. There was a screen in the way. So they pressed these buttons one by one, and they administered increasingly painful electric shocks. So these electric shocks got administered every time this person got a question wrong, right? So they were asking them questions. Every time they got a question wrong, they administered electric shock, right? And eventually, after, I think it was like, I'm not sure how much, it started off like low voltage, you know, like the odd little electric shock. Sometimes you touch something in your house, you get like this static electric shock. And the person behind the screen was like, ow, right? They shouted like, ow. And then the electric shocks got more and more increasing in like potency, right? They weren't really, it wasn't actually a real electric shock board, but like the person behind the screen was pretending they were getting more increasing intensity of electric shocks, and the scale in front of the actual participant was getting higher and higher and higher. It said like 20 volts, 40 volts, 60 volts. Okay, so around about like the 100 volts stage, the participant, because the actor behind the screen really was like, ow, like this really hurts, please stop the experiment. The participant was actually shocking them and was being told to shock them increasingly by the authority figure. So around about 100 volts, the participant starts to get a little bit, you know, like distant, right? They start to be like, oh, I don't really want to carry this experiment on anymore. The experimenter urges them to carry on, urges and urges and urges them. And anyway, most people ended up continuing the whole experiment, administering all electric shocks. Even after 75% of the way through, the actor was told to be quiet after they administered electric shocks. So picture this, you know, the electric shocks go from like 0 volts to 500 volts. When you get to 400 volts, the person behind the screen is pretending to be dead, right? And the experimenter was like, you need to carry on electrocuting them, right? And what happened was the person behind the screen was pretending to be dead, but the participant usually carried on anyway. And this is a long way of trying to tell you that basically having an authority figure in the room is so potent and can influence and persuade you so much that you will effectively kill someone if they tell you to do it. That was what it was found out. So there's a few takeaways from this. Is whatever you're doing, you need to be an authority at it, right? Because the authorities claim 90% of the results. Whatever it is. If you are watching a celebrity doing a comedy show, that person is an authority. They're stood on a stage. Everyone's going to laugh at their jokes. If you make one back at them, though, no one's going to laugh at your jokes, right? They're the authority. If you have tons and tons of followers, right, you could actually be giving the wrong advice to all of your followers, but because you've got such a big following, immediately establishes your authority, people will more likely believe you, more likely believe them because they've got a big authority, even if their information's wrong, even if your information's correct. Crazy, right? So if you're people will try. I've been at like conferences and business conferences where everyone has rushed at the end to try and get the main person speaking, if it's like, you know, a well-known individual, the main person speaking, phone number, contact number, email address, they've all rushed at the end, right? because that's the authority figure. Even though they might have had 6 or 7 other speakers on stage, no one goes to them, right? They want the authority figure. The authority figure is something people cannot take their eyes off. You must learn to be an authority figure on whatever you're doing. So a great example of this, I was looking at some stuff in the manosphere at the moment, because this is like a massive, massive topic at the moment. And in the manosphere, I agree with a lot of the stuff that they say, but I think like some of the stuff they say is just straight out wrong. Like it's factually incorrect. But the thing is, because they've established themselves as an authority, there's a bunch of players in that field, right? They've established themselves as an authority. Some of the things they say are factually incorrect. But I was looking at the comments and I was like, am I a fucking dumbass, or is it these guys? Like, am I a dumbass because I can't actually believe what I'm seeing in these comments, right? And all the comments are like, yes, this is so true, this is so true, this is so true. And that is the power of being an authority figure. I was watching this guy the other day, and he was talking about, this is also in Manosphere, it was like a bunch of guys, and they were talking about like the reason men are allowed to cheat in relationships. And the reason why is because men don't fall in love when they cheat. However, when women cheat, they fall in love. And that's just factually not true. Like evidence-based psychology, evolutionary psychology, is a good evolutionary psychologist who specializes in mating called Dr. David Buss. He was saying that, yes, it's true. If a woman cheats, she is more likely to fall in love. There's a 70% chance she is more likely to fall in love with the person she's cheated with. If a guy cheats, though, it's 30% chance, which is still 1 in 3, that he's going to fall in love with the person he cheats with, right? So this person who was sat on like this panel, this sort of podcast, these group of people, they were factually wrong in what they were saying, but it didn't matter, right? Some people like who were hosting the podcast were disagreeing with the people, saying that's not true. And I read the comments. All the comments were agreeing with the main person who they perceived as an authority. And what happens then? Social proof gets involved, because everyone is basically in the same bucket. They want to agree with each other, and what happens is the commonalities form between each other, common ground, right? Oh, we agree on this, I agree on this, you agree on this. And then what happens from there is like it becomes this breeding ground of misinformation. And this is how rumors start. This is how misinformation starts as well. It starts exactly like this. One person has an authority and a few people believe it. And then suddenly, next thing you know, everyone believes it. And I've seen a lot of stuff like that where like it's actually factually wrong, some of the things that are being said, but it doesn't matter because there's an authority. I was looking at this guy. I was on a LinkedIn the other week, and there was this guy, and he was like, he made this post saying 5 tips to being a YouTube, to building 100,000 subscriber channel on YouTube. And he gave these 5 tips, and he must have done like a little bit of research or something, because some of the tips are okay, like they weren't that bad. But I was reading through the comments, and all the comments on this LinkedIn post were like, oh my God, this is the best piece of advice ever. And this guy was like some sort of LinkedIn influencer authority, right? All the comments like, this is the best piece of advice ever. This is exactly where I've been going on. Thank you so much for these tips. Thank you so much for these tips. And some of the tips from growing my own YouTube channel won't get people very far. They were like too technical. YouTube's not really a technical platform anymore. And like, I was reading down the comments and I was like, so I think this guy's got like 50% right about what he says. But like from the communities that I'm in, like the other 50% isn't right. So I was reading the comments. This guy doesn't even own a YouTube channel and has never built a YouTube channel for anyone else. It was just his 2 cents. Armchair expert telling the masses what he thinks is true. And the problem is with this is that Because he's a figure of authority, people just believe you when you're a figure of authority. It's very persuasive. People instantly believe you. If you're a figure of a person who doesn't have an authority, you're just like, just a basic person who doesn't have like an authority in a space, you might actually, if you were to go onto LinkedIn and you've got a channel which has got 1 million subscribers and tell people 5 tips how to grow a 1 million subscriber channel, even though you'd be factually right, even though your stuff would be based in reality, even though your stuff would be based on experience, it doesn't matter. You probably won't get liked because you've not got an authority there. You see how powerful this stuff is? Cult leaders have an authority. They can make people do very, very sinister things. So persuasion is like one of these things where it's very, very potent. And the great thing about it is that it's skilled. You can learn it as skills, but you must do it like ethically, right? And honestly, it annoys me seeing like these armchair stuff. I wouldn't teach this stuff unless I'd implemented it in my business or in my life in some way. Right. Anyone can go on Google, read a few things, and then repeat it back on video or in an article to someone. But what separates you is actually being an authority. So hopefully, knowing some of these persuasion techniques, they'll improve your life, but also it'll improve you in terms of like, you don't want to be influenced by some of these other things, right? Because if you get influenced by somebody who's massively charismatic, they might rip you off. I've been ripped off before. I'll actually tell you a story about that in a minute. But if you get influenced by somebody who has massive social proof around, or a buying opportunity that has massive social proof around it, and you can't defend yourself because you don't know what the hell's going on, you will just be drawn to it. The same with authority figures as well. You'd be like, that could send you on like this deep rabbit hole of chasing something, or going down the wrong route or using the wrong strategy just because an authority figure has said it. Well, they don't know what they're talking about, full stop, right? So last year I was trying to work out a way of how I could increase my sales skills, how I could increase my conversion rates on my call. It wasn't bad, but I was just like, how can I take it to a whole different level? And one of the things that I came up with is that I should really be like, when I get on sales calls with people will more likely buy from me if they know that like I'm a genuine, real, trustworthy person who can actually offer them value. So what I did on the sales calls, I decided that I would start helping people a little bit for free, because I knew that if I helped them a little bit for free, they would buy from me, right? So the first guy I came across was this guy who was a CEO of a big insurance company in the US. And this was the first frigging guy I tried this new approach with. And basically, when I was speaking to this guy, he was super charismatic, very, very likable, getting interested in me, being like super polite, texting me, sending me emails, things like this. And he was like, I've got these big problems with my business. He was like, this is my main one, and I'm looking for someone to work with for like the long term, someone to partner at my company. And I was like, sounds like a frigging deal closer, because I know how to solve this guy's main problem. And what I can do then is we can just work together for a long term. I've got absolutely no problem giving value up front to basically, be rewarded in the end, right? So we had like whiskeys and things over like Zoom calls, and I solved this guy's problem. I did it relatively quickly. It was a problem which probably, I estimate, earned him probably 6 figures in a few months. And he was like, I'm going to go and try it out. I was about to shoot on holiday. So he was like, I'm going to go and try it out, and I'll get in touch with you when you're back on holiday. So anyway, I got back from holiday. I didn't hear anything from the guy. And I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, how's it going? No reply. Reached out to him again. And he was like, I was like, hey, you know, what's going on? Did it work? And he was like, yeah, he did reply. And he was like, yeah, it worked brilliantly. You know, I can't remember what he said. I think he just said it worked brilliantly. And then he went in with like another question about another big issue he was facing. So I was like to him, like, yeah, I could happily solve this for you, but, you know, let's talk about what we agreed on first. Ghosted me. I solved the problem, which probably earned him 600 grand. I sent him like a few follow-up emails after that, tried to call him, sent him a few texts, sent him, you know, a few LinkedIn messages, ghosted me. Even when on LinkedIn, you can see when people are active and online. No, like guy just straight up ghosted me, ignored me from that moment onwards. I can see he's still active, commenting and things like this. And that is what you would call a Machiavellian guy, possibly a narcissist, but he used his likability. Often narcissists are like very, very, very likable. They can like switch on being highly charismatic at any given point, and they can make people like them for their own personal gain. And that's exactly what happened to me in that situation. I was like, thank God this was like the first person I tried this with, and like I hadn't tried it with like 10 people and all 10 people ripped me off. But there was no real red flags to know about this person that they were going to do this, because they disguised it in being highly likable. But if we flip the situation around, being highly likable got him a problem solved for completely free for 6 figures. So it was well worth it for him. And this is the power of being likable. I am not easily like influenced or manipulated, you know, and I'm certainly a lot better than what I was back last year, even just last year. But I do think like maybe if I'd have known what I know now back then maybe I'd have been able to avoid it, but maybe not as well, because he came in pretty stealthy. This is the power of being persuaded, being highly likable. And if you can master social proof, if you can master being likable, if you can master being an authority, you will never ever go without money in your bank account. You will never ever go without friends. I'm actually planning down the line to make a whole course on persuasion, because you might think what I've given you in this session, you know, I'm certain I could frigging charge 5 grand for it a pop. You might think what I've just given you in this session is valuable. I'm actually gonna, you know, release a course in the future. That's just the tip of the iceberg, trust me. There's a lot of things out there that you pick up through sales, negotiation, through marketing, some very, very high level techniques. So that's really it. Let me know what you think below. It's more of a raw video. I haven't died either, which is fantastic, because I'm absolutely baking, honestly. Let me know what you think below about these. Also, let me know how you're going to apply these persuasion tips to your life. And I mean it, right? Don't be one of these people that gets stuck in procrastination, that gets stuck in information overload. Don't be going and listening to, you know, some of these people that I mentioned in this talk who have no idea what the hell they're talking about. However, they just appear to be an authority, right? So make sure that you're protecting yourself against this. And right below the video, like how you are actually going to implement in like some of these techniques into your life, into your you know, into your relationship, into your business as well. I'm just going to check this thermometer here. Woo-hoo-hoo. It is 34 degrees in this room, because I've got my laptop on, which is showing a camera, and the laptop gets hotter. Got a window closed and no fan. It's now 34 degrees in here. I might be the sweatiest man that's ever lived. So you can just see that there. 30, yeah, can you see that? Yeah, 30, almost 34. Oops. Let's see what it is in Fahrenheit. It's 92 degrees. I've managed to do this video without actually losing my mind in a semi-coherent manner. I think, honestly, sometimes I'm just like, am I blessed? But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Go and check out my LinkedIn course as well. It's got persuasion and influence techniques. If you're on LinkedIn, you are missing out by not having that course. I bought all the other influencer courses on LinkedIn. All they tell you to do is to make content every single week, a few times a week, and to sit back and hope and pray that it actually works out for you. Don't fall for that stuff, man. In my stuff, I've got sales and marketing training, actual case studies, blueprints of specific word-for-word scripts I have used to close $10,000 deals, okay? Don't be influenced by all these influencers who don't actually know anything, who are still very much white belts in the realm of sales and marketing as well. Remember what I told you in this video. Let's go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got to go now and probably go and take an ice cold bath and get some therapy because I'm so hot, okay? You take care. Have a great one.